So let's just dive right into this explainer by tackling a massive philosophical question that has honestly haunted sports fans for generations. How do we actually measure true greatness on the cricket pitch? Is it something we simply feel when we watch a player walk out to the crease? Or is it a cold, hard formula that we can just calculate on a spreadsheet? Today, we're going to look at the twilight of a golden era of Indian cricket through two completely different lenses: the romantic art of legacy and the rigorous science of performance prediction. Former Aussie legend Greg Chappell really sets the emotional stakes for us right out of the gate here. When looking back at the golden era of modern Indian cricket, Chappell points out that merely calling Virat Kohli a batting great is, well, it's honestly a disservice. He brought this warrior's mindset that few ever dared to embrace. He completely transformed India's ODI side into a sharp, hyper-focused, and supremely fit unit that played to win literally anywhere in the world. He wasn't just hitting the ball. He was changing the culture.
Section 1. The Art of Legacy. Beyond the record books. Let's look at the qualitative intangibles that define the closing chapters of Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma's reign. It's fascinating because we're looking at the juxtaposition of two incredible legends who conquered the sport in completely different ways. On one hand, you've got Kohli's meteoric, intense rise, defined by sheer, unfiltered passion and a refusal to ever settle. But then, on the other hand, you have Rohit Sharma's journey. Rohit's path was much more of a slow burn. For years, he dazzled, but inconsistency kind of kept him from cementing his place. Then came 2013, when he was promoted to open the batting, and he just seized it with this quiet confidence. Suddenly, his elegance, humility, and meticulous precision blossomed into one of the most remarkable second wins in Indian cricket history.
What stands out immediately, though, is Kohli's famous detachment from his personal statistics. While all of us fans and pundits spent a decade raving about his centuries and run aggregates, Kohli cared almost exclusively about the outcome of the match. He famously stated that he played for India, not for individual records. In a sport where individual feats are so often the focal point of the narrative, Kohli deliberately sought something larger. His currency was legacy.
And just as a quick, kind of surprising side note here, it's super easy to look at these two players at the crease and make assumptions based purely on aesthetics, right? You have Virat's famously chiseled frame alongside Rohit's notoriously bulkier build. But the reality? Strength and conditioning coach Ankit Kaliar, who has worked closely with both of these athletes, confirms that behind the scenes, their physical conditioning is actually equally elite. Looks can absolutely be deceiving when it comes to world-class sports performance.
Section 2. The Math of Cricket. From poetry to data science. Let's pivot from the romantic poetry of the game to the cold, hard science of how academic analysts view these exact same players.
Think of this algorithm as a literal crystal ball that data scientists use to distill a legend into raw predictive math. In a really fascinating academic study from the Narula Institute of Technology, researchers actually used multiple linear regression to model cricketer performance. Simply put, they're saying an athlete's success isn't magic, it's a dependent variable, and it relies on several independent variables like physical fitness, specific skills, past averages, and high scores. By finding the mathematical relationship between these factors, you can actually predict how a player will perform in the future.
But here's the ultimate irony of our two lenses today. The man who explicitly plays purely for legacy and actively ignores his personal stats, he is the absolute perfect subject for researchers studying quantitative performance. Kohli's massive dataset of runs, averages, and strike rates makes him an ideal candidate for multiple regression modeling. Tracking a decade of Kohli's actual batting data really grounds this whole academic theory in reality. When tracking the fluctuations in his performance from 2011 to 2021, you can clearly see those incredible peaks around 2016 and 2017, where his average soared above 75, which is then followed by the natural variance that happens over a long career. Data scientists take these exact peaks and valleys, completely strip away the emotion of the game, and plug them straight into their algorithms. Section 3. Predicting performance. Turning action into algorithms. So how exactly do we transform those spectacular on-field actions into actionable statistical coefficients? Well, here is how researchers pull it off. They plug specific independent variables into the regression model to accurately predict a player's future output. For batters like Rohit and Virat, the independent variables, the X values, are things like their high score and their batting average. They apply the specific coefficients generated by the model, add the intercept, and boom, you've just calculated Y, their predicted future strike rate. And this works for bowlers, too.
For someone like R. Ashwin, his wickets taken and bowling average are used to mathematically predict his future economy rate. It's wild.
By following this step-by-step process, team managers, coaches, and scouts can look right past their gut instincts. We're living in an era where strategic decisions like who to select, how to train them, and when to rest them are entirely driven by data. This methodology gives athletes a highly scientific awareness of their own performance and precisely spots the areas they need to improve. Section 4. The undefeated age factor. Father Time statistics. Let's dive into this undeniable biological reality, known in research as the relative age effect. Because no matter how legendary you are, tracking the god of cricket himself, Sachin Tendulkar, reveals a very specific window where he was mathematically unstoppable. He debuted as a 16-year-old kid back in 1989, but if we run the data analysis on his incredible career, his absolute statistical peak, where he was scoring runs with the absolute highest consistency, was precisely bounded between the ages of 24 in 1993 and 31 in 2004.
And we see the exact same pattern for MS Dhoni. Dhoni debuted in 2004, and looking at the line graphs of his run production, his golden peak was incredibly consistent from 2005 to 2010. If you calculate his age during that window, it lands right between 24 and 29. It proves that across totally different eras and completely different playing styles, the physical, mental, and technical sweet spot for peak performance is astonishingly consistent.
Ultimately, the data scientists have uncovered one biological certainty: time is undefeated. Physical and mental abilities dictate that the numbers almost always begin to wane after the age of 31. It's not a failure on the athlete's part at all, it's simply a biological certainty that gets mapped out in the regression models. Section 5. Beyond the numbers. Synthesizing art and science. As Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma navigate the twilight of their international careers, how do we synthesize the poetry of their play with the hard math of their output? Well, from a purely scientific standpoint, both Rohit and Kohli are mathematically well past that golden 24 to 31 peak. They are closer to the end of their eras than the beginning, and the multiple linear regression models coldly predict a natural decline based on their age factor. But remember Greg Chappell's words from earlier. The qualitative truth is that their legacy is already permanently secured. They aren't just data points. Their movements, the culture they built, that warrior mindset, the sheer elegance, those are things that completely transcend the regression models and live on in the hearts of the fans forever. So I'll leave you with this final thought to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. As sports analytics get better and better at predicting the future and graphing out the physical decline of our heroes, will we ever find a formula that captures the true soul of the game? Or will greatness always be something we just have to feel? Think about that next time you watch a legend walk out to the crease. So,